think that people who ignore your warnings are actually the, quote, insane, unquote people? And why do you feel the way that you do about this matter?
Well, these people want to refer to me as being the insane one, but in reality, I don't see them as being insane. But they are in denial, that they don't want to see how all the dots do connect. There's a lot of dots that connect. But even in the case of a connected dot puzzle, no one can solve that connected dot puzzle without having numbers next to the dot that tell them go to this dot, then go to that dot, then down to this one and over to that one, and then the dots connect. The Lord has shown me. The reason I know what I'm talking about is I did see dots connecting. I had a broken left arm, a broken left leg. I opened the Bible to Ezekiel 4. It says, lay down on your left side. I said, well, this is obviously the Word of God speaking directly to me, because that's what I'm doing. I'm laying down with a broken left arm and a broken left leg. But connecting the dots, I got to Ezekiel 7. It says, talking about the end is coming. Back up to, I started to read the book of Ezekiel from chapter 1. Because Ezekiel 5:9 says, because of the abominations in the land, the Lord's coming to do what's never been done before and will never be done again. And that's like a kind of a brain twister. You ask yourself, well, what can this be talking about? It's never been done before. It's never going to be done again. I want to know what could it be. And while my mind has been set on trying to understand what's coming, and you get to chapter 7, it says an end is coming. Dots are starting to connect. Then I decide I made the decision, I'm going to back up to Ezekiel chapter 1. I'm injured. I got a lot of time to lay around. I'm going to start the book of Ezekiel. I open the book to Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel begins with the book saying, and I beheld an immense cloud of fire enfolding itself, surrounded by brilliant light. As I read that verse in chapter 1 of Ezekiel, I asked myself, do you suppose this could be talking about a mushroom cloud of a nuclear bomb? I don't know, but I'm considering it possible that might be what it's talking about, when something actually happened at that moment. There's a knock at my front door. My legs broke, I can't get up, I just hollered, come on in! An 80-year-old friend of mine comes in. This 80-year-old friend of mine comes in, and he says, I heard you got hurt. I thought I'd stop by, check on you, see how you're doing. So he sits on the couch, and we started to visit. And my Bible's open to Ezekiel chapter 1. I was just reading the verse. And I say, after a little while, I go, hey, his nickname was Doc. I go, hey, Doc, listen to this verse I'm reading in my Bible. And I read it to him. Ezekiel, an immense cloud of fire, enfolding itself, engulfing itself in another version, surrounded by brilliant light. I read it to him, and I asked him, I said, well, what do you think? Do you think the Bible could be talking about a mushroom cloud of a nuclear bomb? He tells me an amazing first-hand testimony. He said, I was 30 years in the Navy, but after World War II, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki had been nuked, he said, I was on a ship in the South Pacific. Our mission was conducting nuclear bomb tests. He said, I have personally witnessed nuclear bombs going off. He said, they were counting down, the explosion's going to go off, like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Excuse me, I got to turn this phone off.
We still would really like to hear what you say, Mr. Triplett.
Yeah, well, what I'm telling you is the man begins to explain to me how he has been on a ship. They were doing nuclear bomb testing, and the results were, as the countdown's going down, they were ordered, you must tightly close your eyes, cover your eyes with your forearm. And he said, when that bomb went off, he said, I could see the bones in my arm through my tightly closed eyes. He said, and every sailor on the ship experienced the same thing. The nuclear bomb emitted such incredibly brilliant light, they said, had they not covered their eyes with their forearm, that their optic nerves would have been permanently damaged. They'd be blinded for the rest of their life. That's an amazing, brilliant light. And then as he's explaining this to me, I looked back down at my Bible. I gazed right at the words again. Surrounded by brilliant light. I go, wow. When the Bible's talking about brilliant light, it freaking means brilliant light. And that's exactly what Ezekiel saw. And so the man leaves my house after the short visit, and I lay there by myself, totally amazed. I said, God, how do you do this? How do you find a man? I mean, what are the odds? How many people can you find walking around today that can actually tell you, I was there. I have seen nuclear bombs going off. This is what it's like. I go, them kind of men are scarce, very scarce. But here's a man that knocks on my front door. While I got my Bible open, I'm reading that verse, and God himself sends a man to my house, comes in, sits down, explains to me. How is it that I know what I know? I didn't choose to be enlightened. I didn't seek the knowledge. It came to me without my having anything to do with it. But I do know what I know. And I began to study Ezekiel chapter 1. You know what it says? Coming out of the midst of the fire cloud are the likeness of 4 living beings. I go, what's that supposed to mean? The likeness of 4 living beings. I looked over at my dining room table. On the table was some waxed fruit in a bowl, like a centerpiece thing. And as I looked at it, I felt the thoughts came to my mind. You see that bowl of waxed fruit? It has a likeness of fruit, but it's not fruit. You can't eat it. And then I realized that out of the midst of an immense cloud of fire, living creatures don't come out of clouds of fire, but it says they go straight forward, fast as lightning, and that they have 4 wings. They shine like burnished bronze. I go, it's telling you they're shiny metal. A jet goes straight forward. It don't turn to the right or the left, says that. It says they have legs that are straight. And I go, you know what? Most animals, I remember an old construction saying I'd hand a 2x4 to an old carpenter as a young man. He'd look down that 2x4 and say, this stud's crookeder than a dog's hind leg. I thought about it. A dog's hind leg, is it any crookeder than a cow's hind leg or a horse's hind leg or a pig or a sheep or a goat? I go, you know what? Living creatures don't have straight legs. I go, that's why the prophet Ezekiel was making it a comment about that. He ain't never seen anything with a straight leg. That's kind of unusual to him. Because what he's describing is jets in the best way he can with the limited vocabulary of his time period. He says the 4 wings appear to touch one another. Jets flying in close formation, the wings could be appearing to touch. No, the man, he traveled into the future. The things he saw were happening at that time. And then he time traveled back to his time period and was instructed, write down the things you saw. That's what he did. Pretty amazing.